Hey everyone, Daunter here. There are many artists in the Pokemon TCG, and it's my goal to cover as many as I can, so I can help you, the viewer, determine which one of these fantastic artists holds the spaces of your binders or the slabs in your room. You might find a new favorite card or a new favorite artist. I'm currently attempting to hit 500 subscribers, so if you enjoy the content, consider subscribing to see more content regarding the artists of the Pokemon TCG. If there's an artist that you'd like to see reviewed next, then let me know in the comments below. Welcome to the Pokemon Artist Review. In today's video, we'll be talking about Sumiyoshi Kizuki. Kizuki started illustrating cards in the set Team Rocket, released April 24th, 2000, and has illustrated 221 cards, including any reprints they may have. Man, Sumiyoshi Kizuki, what a crazy video to do, honestly. There's so much to say about this artist, from a complete evolution of their style over time, to a consistency to fantastic illustrations over the years. Due to the crazy difference in styles over the years, this video will be a little bit more complicated. They have many distinct styles, but I'll figure out how to separate this. The criteria for this video will be as follows: style variation, simplicity, and personality. For my first point, I want to talk about how many unique styles Sumiyoshi Kizuki has. Back in their introductory set in English, we have the Team Rocket set. Kizuki's cards can be differentiated by two distinctive styles back in this day and age. We have outlined cards and outline-less cards. Let's just take the Mankey from Team Rocket as our example of an outlined card. Of course, obviously, the Pokemon features an outline, but the outline itself is really thick and very fuzzy, which is something that I appreciate about the concept. For an example of an outlineless card, we'll take the Oddish from Neo Genesis. This card features a very expressive Pokemon jumping across the borders of the card, and of course, due to the nature of the card, it features no outline, which changes the style up pretty drastically. I feel like their artwork started to shift towards a different idea in the Diamond and Pearl era of the TCG. As we can see, looking at the Xatu from Secret Wonders shows us that Kizuki has sort of mixed these two styles in some way, giving us very thin outlines for the Pokemon, but an outlineless sun in the background. I feel like these cards kind of blur the line between the Pokemon having outlines and not having outlines, which I find pretty cool. In the Ralts from the Pop Series 7 set, we can see a similar philosophy. The rain, of course, has no outlines, but the Pokemon, as well as the leaves, have these very nice and thin outlines. There are also some thin strands of grass directly next to Ralts, which have very, very thin outlines, which is something to note as well. We see the style further evolve in the Black and White era, with this refined sort of style that keeps mixing these themes of the previous era into the cards. However, these cards really don't have those fuzzy outlines from what I can tell, by this Algium card from Next Destinies. I think that the tree in the background is a little fuzzy, and the light behind the Pokemon doesn't feature an outline. But the Pokemon itself is pretty firm and has a very powerful outline. Interestingly enough, in their Mismagius from Legendary Treasures, we see more of a return to form with these really thick, almost fuzzy lines. The background is really nice and outlineless though. The only thing in the card that is outlined other than the Pokemon are the hills below the Pokemon, which I personally find interesting. It really feels like in the Black and White era, Kizuki was a lot more refined, but still added some flair into their cards. In the X and Y era, they have those outlineless cards back in full force, with an illustration of Ninjask from Roaring Skies, which features the Pokemon flying along with this really cool yellow ray following the Pokemon, which is very reminiscent of their old artworks. But their main illustrations feel very different from the previous era. Take the Kricketot from Breakpoint. The rain in the card is heavily detailed, pouring down on the Pokemon. You even see rain droplets falling off of the Pokemon. The grass in the card is super detailed. A lot more than what we come to expect from Kizuki's illustrations, which I find really interesting. There's a lot more detail in this card. I feel like this kind of style has really continued throughout the Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield era. And, finally, we reach the Scarlet and Violet era. Let's just look at the Zubat from Paradox Rift. This card features nicely detailed background features, with those individualized rocks and stalactites and stalagmites, but the Pokemon in this card is actually outlineless, just featuring a little bit of shading on the Pokemon itself. I feel like an illustration like this is truly the culmination of all of their works over the years, and it's really fascinating to see what that kind of evolution really looks like. Next, I wanted to mention Kizuki's simplicity. Even in their most recent illustrations, there's this really nice sense of simplicity that resonates from Kizuki's cards, like the Meltan from Pokemon Go. The Pokemon itself is really nicely detailed, with shading, but the background is just this plain blue. The wrenches aren't actually crazy glimmery, and everything feels sort of simple, which is why I bring up this card. It's just a really simple and easy card to stare at. You're not overwhelmed with details or craziness, and I think that's totally fine. I think that that's a great stylistic decision to make. In the Electrode from Stormfront, it showcases the Pokemon just staring straight into the distance, the rocky cliffs giving us some nice detail to the illustration, but the Electrode itself is seriously simple, just being a circle with a line of red through it, which is a wonderful, simple way to execute this Pokemon. Finally, I would like to point out the personality of Sumiyoshi Kizuki's illustrations. In the Roselia illustration from Stormfront, You have the Pokemon poking their arms out each way, with a bright smile on its face, and one leg kicked up. The Pokemon is really nicely characterized in this card. You can really see a lot of care put into the way the Pokemon carries itself, being curious and supremely joyous. Another card that has so much personality is the Slowbro from Heart Gold and Soul Silver base set. I really love how curious the Pokemon looks in this card, as the water beneath it swirls and cascades. The way it puts its hand on its mouth is a way to showcase to the viewer that the Pokemon is curious about the world around it, which seems to be pretty accurate for a Slowbro as a Pokemon. Now, let me talk about my top 5 favorite cards from Sumiyoshi Kizuki. In no particular order, here we go. The first card I wanted to talk about is the Cobalion from Legendary Treasures. This has to be one of the best, if not the best, Cobalion card of all time. The way you can see small outlines of Virizion on the right and Terrakion on the left is gorgeous, as well as just the pose of the Pokemon makes it that really cool holo foil that the black and white cards have, and that deep and intentional sun in the background, which I think looks fantastic. The next card I have is the Krabby from the Vending Machine series. This card is exclusive to Japan, but there's something so seriously clean about this illustration. Krabby as a Pokemon is so readable. The way that it looks onto that multicolored beach really looks amazing. It's simplistic joy and beauty. I have no idea why I love this card so much, but I do. The next card I have on here is the Purloin from Unified Minds. I really love how mischievous the Pokemon looks in this card. The shading and effects are also amazing. I really love the specific style that Kizuki used for the illustration. Plus, it's also a reference to the Bulbasaur from the Vending Machine series of cards, which was a very long time ago, so it's cool to see a more modern card referencing something like that. The next card I have here is the Jirachi from EX Deoxys. I really love that swirly effect in the background. The pink is really striking, and this red kind of side outline that it has on the side makes it look really powerful. I love how Jirachi is illustrated in the card, looking cute and detailed at the same time. It all comes together to make a really beautiful holo card. The final card I have on here is the Diglett from Team Rocket. I've always loved how crazy the tower in the background looks, the way it twists and turns, and the Diglett in the foreground just looks straight goofy. He's simple, and he has a really effective design. I like it, and I like it a lot. And that was Sumiyoshi Kizuki. Kizuki has been with us for a very long time, and I would love to see some kind of illustration rare by this artist, as they totally deserve it. I just want to see more from them overall, as I really appreciate their simplistic and experimental illustrations, so I'd love to see more from them. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by liking and commenting, as well as considering subscribing to my channel. I cover everything you need to know about Pokemon artists. If you want to see more of these kinds of videos, I have a playlist on my channel for the Pokemon Artist Review. And with that, I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.